come out to in the entire world.
Live at Red Rocks, this place is obviously epic on a myriad of levels.
We in Colorado, baby. We in Denver.
We come to Denver and make genuine connections, new partners, new agents, new managers, excellent representation, and people you can work with for the rest of your career.
I think it's so important for creators to get together because that's the future of our business. And this community really proves that we're stronger together.
Welcome to the Chinwag podcast.
Well, it's always because an audience is nice. They feed you. The energy is nice. They have a back and forth with people. Then people got up and were telling us really interesting things about themselves, and it's great.
Everything good that has ever happened in my entire career has somehow, in one way, shape, or another, come from SeriesFest.
Do it again, okay? It's take two. Listen,
two.
let's do it. Yeah, let's do it.
Richard asked me what's showing tonight.
What's going on behind me? It's SeriesFest, baby. It's really a celebration of creators. That's really what we're here to do, is celebrate creators on the verge of breaking into the industry.
And everybody I've met is not only interested in you personally and what you do creatively, but they want to share their story.
It's really about the community, it's really about the arts, it's about the people who make the films and the television shows. The artists come first here.
And we're doing a panel today about Hollywood disabilities and how to open up more opportunities around that.
It's actually been a great time. I'm excited for the party tonight, too. I'm excited for all the parties.
All you filmmakers out there, if you have a series that you want to get exposure, SeriesFest is the place to do it.
It'll be bigger than the NFL in 3 years.
It's like going to the best summer camp you always wished existed when you were a kid.
Beautiful day today, sunny and green, so we'll see you season 10.
I am 2 thumbs up for season 10.
Welcome to our final program for the festival. I'm a little misty-eyed. I keep bringing up mist. Navigating the independent content landscape. You may have noticed that we have some alumni that are returned for SeriesFest. And this panel is really special to us as we welcome back Damaine Radcliff to talk about how he has gone from premiering a series in 2018 at SeriesFest and where he is now as a content creator with his partner Affion Crockett and the fantastic team at The Color Creative. And to get the conversation started, please welcome moderator Malcolm Venable, staff writer at Shondaland.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. Suppose I'll sit here. Thanks, everybody. So we are here to talk about navigating the independent content landscape. And we're going to first have up Mr. Affion Crockett, the actor, writer, and producer whose pilot manuscript was shown here at SeriesFest, and whom you've seen in several hundred million things in Hollywood. Mr. Damaine Radcliff, actor, producer, and director, who, as mentioned before, is an alum of SeriesFest. And Talitha Watkins, president and head of Color Creative Management.
Woo! Talitha!
Hi, guys.
Damaine.
Nice to see you here in Denver.
How are you, sir?
So I'm doing all right.
You need a breather? You need to...
Yeah, I just left a amazing talk on a pilot dealing with police brutality, so it's nice to shift to something a little bit more fun.
Let's do it.
So we saw your pilot.
Wait, first of all, how's everybody doing? Are y'all cool? This is the last day. I'm a comedian, so I like to get energy before I start anything I'm doing, so hi.
So your pilot manuscript was shown here, and we talked about this earlier, but I feel like you've been in so much. People have seen your face in Hollywood for so long. I think one of the misconceptions people might have is that you could do anything. You could just walk into them and sell anything, and just get people to throw money at you to make whatever you want.
Right.
How true is that?
Not true at all. Yeah, I don't know. Hollywood is a weird thing, and unfortunately, there's a divide between black talent and others. And so we, for whatever reason, we always have to prove again after we've done everything, and it's just unfortunate, but that is a myth. I work hard. I've been in the industry since '98-ish. No, 95 actually. I did Def Comedy Jam in 95. So I'm blessed to still look young, but it's just a journey of constant pursuit of getting your vision. Because I work all the time, but you don't always want to say someone else's words or do somebody else's vision because it doesn't put you in the best position to show your skill sets, if that makes any sense.
I would like to maybe start on a contrary note. What are some things people should not do as they are trying to, create and package and sell an independent series? Like, I would imagine for you, somebody finds out what you do and they're like, oh, I want to give you my pilot.
They hand her business cards and she's like, nah.
First of all, I just want to say thank you, Malcolm, for being here with us. I got the chance to meet Malcolm outside of a screening one day, and we just started kikiing in the corner before we even knew who each other were or what we did. And it's been so wonderful to see you continue on this journey and telling our stories. So thank you for being here, and thank you all for being here. I have the best job.
You do. You really do.
I get to hang out with these guys who keep me laughing constantly, but they also keep sharpening my focus towards how I can support their vision and their dreams. So, I do get tossed a lot of things, but my plate is really full when you have creators like Affion and Damaine independently and coming together. And I think that's the thing that's really exciting for me is the collaboration. And I feel like what we're building in just this project and even the project that they're currently working on together is an incredible library of content that will put them in a position to take their own ownership of their material and really change and shape the industry towards what's equitable and hopefully establish a standard on how to work with creators who are not afraid to take the risk. So, what I think your question was the opposite, right?
Yeah,
of what you're saying,
again, people know who, like major companies that you've worked for, and now at the head of Color Creative would be like, "Ooh, girl, I got an idea for you. Can you give me $100,000?" Like, what are some things that people maybe shouldn't do as they begin this journey?
Yeah, so I would say the things that you shouldn't do is think that someone can take something someplace that you haven't tried to take it yourself. So if you haven't entered your project into a wonderful festival like SeriesFest, or if you haven't put it into maybe a screenplay competition or an engine that will give you coverage or do those things, or done the research on the types of producers who you want to be in business with, if you haven't done any of that, you really shouldn't expect to give it to someone and have them do that for you. So I think what you want to do when you're bringing forth a project to someone like me is have a POV. Like, don't just be like, I don't care what you do with it. Like, that doesn't inspire me at all. You know what I mean? So you want anyone who touches your project to be inspired by it and by you. So are you communicating that way? I think that's really important. And that's why I say it's really exciting working with this team because they just continue to elevate each other. Like, we'll come up with new ideas and it's just kind of like a buzzing brainstorm session all the time. And that's invigorating.
So, Damaine, you've done this successfully. I would ask you, the journey to go from idea to, pen to paper to sort of raising resources to, actually making this thing actually happen is a very challenging one, and I imagine can be really overwhelming for a lot of people. How do you sort of plot your course and stay the course in going from idea to finished product?
Well, for this particular project, or for the first time I was to do...
I would start with this one.
So for this project, it's just started with Affion and I just having our daily conversations that we have with just about life and whatever we're doing. And we've been creating content with each other for over like 20 years, whether it be we started on YouTube and doing a lot of big things on YouTube to him having his own show and just things like that. So it was just one of these days, might have been like, I don't know, like right before the holidays, and he was just like, hey man, let's just shoot something. Let's get something, let's shoot. And I asked him what he had. What are you working on? What you had? And he was like, hey, I have this pilot. Now, remind you, we shot another pilot prior to that. I'm always constantly trying to shoot a TV pilot in hopes that it would, I don't recommend everybody just go out and shoot a pilot, but we just had an idea that he came up to me and said, I had this idea. I've been brewing it for a while. I read it. And it was manuscript, and I just started laughing at the whole idea, and then and where the story came from, and it was really based loosely around his life and everything that happened. And I thought about it, and before I decided to just shoot it, I'm thinking, well, where would we take this if this had a home for it? Because you have to think about all these things. Where would this story go? Where would these characters go? Because people who shoot pilots, they don't really think about the long run. They really make it just to sort of make something. And sometimes most people shoot a short film and then they'll call it a pilot, or they'll shoot a feature and then they'll make it into a pilot, and they're like, it's just a million ways how they do it. So he had it written as a pilot that he wanted to take out, but didn't take out because sometimes you can get defeated by how the industry can treat you.
No, we did. We took it out.
Oh, you did take it out?
Like a couple years before.
Oh, okay.
Me and Ken Whittingham, we pitched it, and there was some interest, but there always becomes there's that roadblock, that executive mind that steps in that can't see creative, and they just didn't get it. And I'm like, what don't you get about men dating and actually expressing their feelings?
Right.
What? So yeah, I was just like, let's just shoot it, and that's been me and him. We've been having that method of let's just get it done.
Now the cool thing is, having been here before, I always knew there was some place that we was going to showcase this. If anything else, we knew that this was the first stop that we was going to have, that I knew I was going to have before he even found out about it. I knew SeriesFest was one of the places I was going to end up taking this project. If it came out looking good after we watched it, and it was like, all right, I think this is good enough that we can submit.
And it's so funny because when you brought up, he brought up SeriesFest to me, we were in the middle of another project that we're doing, and I'm not even hearing him clearly. He's like, yo, man, SeriesFest. I'm like, all right, cool. And I'm doing other things, but I didn't realize how big SeriesFest is and how important this is. I didn't even know it existed. And it's perfect for what he and I do because we are always trying to figure out how can we just shoot something and find a home for it. And of course, Talitha is our executive brain who's also creative. Yeah. To have someone on your team who is executive and creative, that's rare. So if you find one, don't look for her because we need her. we're hogging her, but find someone else who can share that brain because we know we're going to bring it straight to her and say, what do you think? And I have a meter. I have a gauge with her. It's called googly eyes. Because most managers are like, they're very like, oh yeah, I can see that. But she gets this big, like, oh my God, that is amazing. She gets excited. So to find someone on the managerial side who gets excited, look for that.
Yeah. And I watched a lot of these projects that were screened in this competition. It's really tough to get into SeriesFest. It's not a simple, easy thing. You have a project, but you might not know that I submitted multiple projects this year to try to get in. I was like, I'm gonna try to get in the need because we shot three pilots this year. Last year we shot 3 pilots in hopes that we can do a couple of things with them. And manuscript is the one that slid through the cracks. By the grace of God, it was like, all right, cool, but it's tough. And then you come in and you watch the projects. The work is just really good. It has gotten better and better and better and better each year. You've seen it. Obviously, technology has gotten better for us independent creators. There's no camera that we can't afford to shoot now. There's nothing that we cannot afford to really get on a decent budget. But it's about the story, the vision, and how you execute it that's really going to matter now when it comes to like really getting into these because it's very difficult. So I'm just happy to be a part of this year again.
It just occurred to me, and maybe we should take a step back and describe the project. Maybe not everybody here may not have had a chance to see it. Would you briefly describe manuscript and what it's about?
Yeah, first I want to say that Damaine won when he was here for his pilot for an hour-long drama called Up North. He won the whole festival, so we can't just skate by and just call him alum. Let's just acknowledge what it is. Give him his flowers while he's still here. So manuscript is loosely based on my life. I'm in my 40s, I'm single, I have no kids, so most people call me a unicorn or there's something wrong with you, right? In black culture, they'd be like, what's wrong with him? Is he all right? Does he like women? What's So yeah, I wanted to create a show that showed the plight of a successful black man who ultimately,
she's a straight black man.
Oh yeah, that goes without saying. Come on, look at me. I'm just kidding. A successful straight black man who really was heartbroken. And most men that you would label womanizer or ladies' man, you think he's just this narcissistic, moving through society, moving around from woman to woman, blindly or just in a very callous way. But if you would really get men to be able to have a safe space to open up and talk, you would understand that there's a pain that they're trying to cover up. Or I'll say we, because it's about me, but there's a pain that I'm trying to cover up with coping mechanisms. And I went to therapy and all that to really unpack this, but most men don't have a safe space. Most men, from the time we're little boys, we scrape our knee, we're told to just, hey, suck it up, don't cry, be a man, right? So we're conditioned from young to not express emotion. So I wanted to create this show where, similar to what Issa Rae did with Insecure, I wanted to create a show about my life that gave men a platform to actually express, even through the bravado, even through the slang, to express what we're actually feeling and what we're actually going through when it comes to dating, parental pressure, peer pressure from our friends, because most of my friends are married with kids, and you think I haven't gotten pressure from them? Hey, give us a new nephew, give us some nieces. So I've dealt with a lot of pressures when it comes to dating, and so here I am.
So as you guys were conceiving this pilot, and obviously you are both sort of well-trenched in the industry, you know how to do this, but what are some of the most difficult pieces? Is it the raising the money? Is it the casting? Is it the, like you said, the camera equipment, the producing? What is the most sort of challenging part, and how do you overcome that as an independent creator?
Well, the money wasn't a problem, because I just said, hey,
Can I borrow $100?
Open up your checkbook, and let's get this thing going.
No, it's an important piece because, Affion being a touring artist and being able to make, money in other ways, and also appearing in other people's projects, he was able to say, I'm going to invest in myself and I'm going to take this, and then, but then having the trust, yeah, that definitely deserves applause. And then having the trust in Damaine, having won 4 categories here in SeriesFest 2018, to say, like, okay, you've done this, you've done it at a high level, you took that project and sold it, show me the way to do this, and then they had to meet in the middle on the creative. So I think there's just a lot of investment going back and forth, and it's when you watch something that's becoming a flywheel, so exciting, so it's been really wonderful to watch.
Yeah, another tidbit on the financing part. So I was also a business major. I have a business degree. And so I always knew I didn't want to be a starving artist. I wanted to understand money. I wanted to understand what my manager and lawyer was saying when we discussed deals, right? And so for me, and this is business 101, if you get paid through your business, if you have a corporation that you get paid through, LLC, or if you do business as a corporation or LLC, there's a thing called tax write-off. So I don't know about y'all, but I work way too hard all year to just send the government free money in large amounts. It pains me. I cry on my floor for 3 days straight after I have to do it. So I decided that because I can legally write this stuff off as an expense, as a business expense, I'm just gonna take that same money that I paid to the government and invest it in something that I enjoy, that I would enjoy writing this check for. So that's how we finance manuscript initially.
For those of us who are less affluent and wealthy and business savvy, and I should just say, if you haven't seen the pilot, I mean, you can tell that it costs some money. There's, I guess, drone shots. There's a beautiful house. There's like some Bentleys. Like it was some money.
There's some things. But let me say this, because I don't want to present it as if it was an unattainable budget, right? Because it was not. That is, I trust the genius of Damaine. I trust the genius of Damaine, right? So he understands cameras and technology. He knew the right DP to go to. So locations. I have a friend who just happens to own the biggest gym near my house. So it's really about using your resources. I feel like a lot of creators make too many excuses. Get it done. Figure it out. You can do stuff on your phone. You know how high the technology is on these phones now? You can shoot on your phone. So anyway, I say that to say it was not an unattainable budget. Yes, you saw Bentleys and all that, but the Bentley was owned by one of the actors. You know what I mean?
Right,
so I didn't have to rent a Bentley. Yeah. I was like, hey man, just pull up.
Literally.
And I own the cameras. We shot 2 Blackmagic Pocket 6Ks. I mean, they're $2,000, maybe $1,500 now for 6K resolution, and you can, once it's dumped down to 4K, it's beautiful. Like the images are astonishing. So it's about finding your resources and really utilizing them at every step. I have some of my producer partners in the crowd, Wolf, Alla, and Lavera. Without them, we wouldn't have got through a lot of the day-to-day that it took to really make a lot of this happen. They were going out to locations. They were trying to do casting, just doing all of these tasks that would not work without having the proper team.
We used Lavera's house twice as 2 different locations.
We sure did. We sure did.
So it's interesting. One of the sort of subtexts coming through is softer skills, right? So everybody knows in order to do this, you need to write something, right? You need to be able to sort of think about producing, but you also have just sort of talked about resourcefulness and collaboration, teamwork, being able to ask for things with confidence. What are some other kind of like softer skills that are crucial to getting this done and getting it, in front of the right eyes?
Getting it in front of the right eyes, that's always going to be subjective, right? I say the first thing that happens is you have to have the utmost confidence in yourself and in your talent, right? Executives are executives for a reason, but they don't always know everything. So my template, the thing that I always use is the film Napoleon Dynamite. Yeah. It is such a niche, character-driven movie, right? When you see it, you get it. If I was an executive that read that on the page before it was ever produced, I would have been like, this is garbage. I don't even understand what this is. But my first introduction, like most of y'all, was I watched it and I laughed uncontrollably. I love Napoleon Dynamite. So I just imagined like, wow, imagine how that would have been rejected on the page. So my method is always, I want to just show it, shoot it and show it, and find someone who gets it. Because they're not always gonna get it from your pitch or from the script. So you gotta navigate around that as a soft skill.
And then I would say one of the things that I noticed from these guys when they were producing the project is the ability to inspire others to, level up. Some of the folks who worked on this project might have been their first or second project working on, but through a lot of leadership, and they were able to help these folks really get to the next level. And it's a big part of who we are, just, lifting as we climb. And just that translated to just a really good time on set. When we were talking about, Affion was talking about that gym, that was a very early morning, right? Or what do you guys shot that before they opened? Or
the gym?
The gym.
No, we shot.
It was a late night.
We started overnight. We started around midnight and then went over into the morning. So when the sun came up is when we shot the valet scene outside, and we were on fumes, but we got it done.
Yeah, but and that, to be able to do that at the end of what was a tough shoot, and have that kind of energy, and the funny, everyone was in good spirits, that's just a testament to the leadership that they showed on the set.
How'd you guys know when it was finished and ready?
Don't ask Damaine, he's still tinkering on it.
You never really know. You never know. You never know when it's ready, when it's finished.
You have to make peace with imperfection.
Yeah.
I've learned to do that over the years. I'm a perfectionist at heart, but we know when it's like, all right, this is good. We're laughing. Color is right. The music is right. The beats are there. Yeah. Let's just let it go.
And doing it independently, you really don't know. Like if it was a network show, obviously you have all of these network departments and all of these executives that are going to give all these notes and all of these things that's going to tell you when it's ready, and then they have an air date when they have to air. So it better be ready. They have to cut off at this particular point. We've all seen shows that had so much imperfections. You're like, how did they let this slide? Well, they had to air it. They had advertisers waiting and they had money to be made. They had to air it. But for somebody independently, you really don't know. The cool thing with us is that, with SeriesFest, They have a cutoff date, like submit it, send it. Even if it's a work in progress, it's not ready yet, you can still be working on it. They'll still take that into consideration as they're viewing your project. So we would submit things that wasn't colored, that the sound mix was off, like just a lot of things that were rough, but they can see where it's going. And by the time you have to submit the final viewing, you had better have that, your project ready, because this is the one that's going to possibly be airing. So you sort of give it a deadline when you have some place like SeriesFest where you're going to showcase it. If you have no place to showcase it, then you're just relying on your friends, family, and just people who you're just going to let watch the project and hope that they like what you did.
I'm going to be brave enough to ask you a very dumb question right now.
There are no dumb questions, Malcolm.
Oh, I don't know. Let it come out first. So, one of the things that you sort of indicated is the notion that if it was just on paper, you wouldn't. The recipient might not really be able to see the vision, right? So, in a lot of ways, the pilot serves as a proof of concept, right? Mm-hmm. So, to that end, a proof of concept could be a 4-minute trailer, or it could be a half an hour pilot. Right. Why do the whole thing rather than just do a cheaper, shorter trailer?
Because SeriesFest.
Come on now.
That's the soundbite y'all been waiting for. That's the soundbite.
Come on now.
But no, SeriesFest, and we have Talitha Watkins. So, look, there's a conventional way to do things, but I feel like all people who achieve greatness throughout time broke the rules in some kind of way, or bent the rules, or created just a new way. They thought outside the box. So there is a way. Case in point, I financed my first stand-up special in 2019. And I knew that, I've been doing stand-up for a long time, but I'm not always positioned to where I'm in front of the HBOs and the Netflixes and the people who are really prominent in that space. So I was like, they're not gonna come knocking on my door. But I know that if I shoot this thing and make it look immaculate, make it look like every HBO special I was always a fan of and watched since I was younger, I'm gonna figure out a home for it. And lo and behold, me and Kevin Hart, one of my friends, we roasted each other during the pandemic, and it went viral. And he and I just continued a dialogue about doing business. So his company, LOL, licensed my stand-up special. It was the first stand-up special that they ever licensed, because they're still a growing company too. And we made a great deal. I made all my money back, plus some, and it reverted back to me after the year was up that we licensed it. So once I went through that process, because I financed that one too, and once I went through that process, I said, I know that if I shoot something from front to back, not a trailer, if I shoot it from front to back and get it deliverable, get it ready to be delivered, then I could find business for it. Simple as that.
Believe in yourself. Kevin Hart. Who is
you never heard of Kevin Hart? He's a very tall dude that he does a few YouTube videos and stuff.
Roasting session.
So let's say someone is showing you their work. How do you know, as an executive and also creative, that it's ready? How do you know that you want to take not a gamble, but an investment on the creatives who are presenting their work to you? What are some of the telltale signs that say, hey, they're ready?
So I think it's what I said at the beginning, is like, from the very beginning, before you even press play, am I engaged in what you're selling me? Like, because for a lot of people, sadly, there's so many buyers now, right? And my team from Color Creative, Ashley and Amir are here, and we spend all of our days calling all the buyers, finding out what their mandates are, what did they buy this week, what are they looking for next week, so that we can prepare our clients for when they want to go out and pitch something. And that's the benefit of working with a company like ours, right? So once we know all of that, that can be incredibly inspiring or can be incredibly daunting, because someone who comes in and it's like, ooh, that doesn't match any of what we heard, right? But if the thing that being in this business for as long as all of us have, is that a great idea will find its way. And so I think it's the first thing out of your mouth. What's the pitch on it? And because Affion, just speaking about this project in particular, because it's such a personal story, that always hooks me, because I know that there's going to be depth there. There's going to be a place to go with it, because it's coming from a really authentic place. Then when you see the execution, and the execution is great, the next question is going to be like, well, where does it go? If it goes on a journey that I can follow it, then I think we're ready to go in the room, because those are the main questions that people are going to want to know. Okay, where's the idea come from? Oh, it's well executed. Where do we go from here? And you know, to Damaine's point, like there are a lot of projects that you look at and you're like, oh, that could be a movie. Like I don't see, you know, season 5 of that. What we've constructed with manuscript, this goes on, and I think it helps people. I think it brings people together. I think the ensemble there's so much rich character development already done just in the one, you know, the 5 locations in one pilot. There's a lot there.
And I want to add, so being here before, right? So I just so you guys know, I had a project here up north. Before we came to SeriesFest, me and a partner of ours, we was working on this project for like 10 years. We just wanted to do a New York version of The Wire. We wanted to tell a story about this and that. We shot the project. We raised money, and we shot the project. We had no idea. Nobody was making independent television. Nobody was doing anything that we know of. So we shot the pilot, went to New York, shot the pilot, edited, put it together, didn't know what we was going to do with it, had no idea. And then, for some reason, we discovered SeriesFest on, I don't know, a website, just Googling what to do with a pilot, independent pilot, just anything. SeriesFest pops up somehow. I think they were on SeriesFest 3 at the time, I might have been, or SeriesFest 2. And once we got it in, you know, we won, whatever. When we won SeriesFest and we went back to LA, all the doors opened up. I mean, we were in Variety, we were in Vanity Fair, and all the agencies, and all this stuff happened. We wound up signing with an agency, and that's when the real work had to kick in. And this is when we learned that traditional Hollywood is not changing for anybody else at the time. It wasn't going to change. You still had to stick to the basics, which is you got to learn how to pitch your project. Even if you have a project that you won the SeriesFest with and everything, they still want to know what is this show about, because everybody's not going to look at us in this 60-minute project. Everybody's not going to, don't think every executive just want to watch your pilot. So you still got to go in that room, still got to sell them on it, still got to have so we was going to every studio in town, Netflix, Amazon, whatever. But we didn't have a pitch. We were just going in there talking about the pilot a little bit and just talking about our personal stories and just why we did this. But they was, by the end of each meeting we had, they were calling back like, well, we don't know what the show is about. What's happening with this character? So, you know, just sticking to the basics of knowing what studios are looking for and how to pitch and how to do these things. You still have to follow all of those basic guidelines and don't just think because now I shot something, let me just send a videotape in, watch it, y'all gonna buy my show, because that's not what they're doing. You know, you have executives that develop for a reason from the ground up. They're not used to seeing a finished project because they're like, well, what's my job now? If you got a finished project, what am I going to be doing now? I'm a development. I got to give notes. I got to give feedback. So you got to go in there with the mindset of saying, let me maybe not show the pilot. As long as I got the meeting, let me go in there and just act like they never seen anything and let me pitch this from the ground up. So those are the things that I would say is just like stick to the basics of still, even with SeriesFest, even with having a platform to show, even with having a finished project, still stick to the basics of knowing all of the details of what to do when you go into a room and what not to do when you go into a room, you know?
That's really great advice. Yeah. That's really, really great advice. To that point, I mean, this is not a panel about hot pitch, but if you could maybe unpack that a little bit more, like, for example, I'm told that one thing you need to know is what the series is like rather than just the first episode of the first season. That's just an example. So I would ask you again, maybe you can unpack a little bit, like what a good pitch sounds like, and you can also chime in with a bad one.
I think it always starts with why now. Why now, especially in the pilot? Like, why are you meeting this person on this day? If you notice in manuscript, it was August's birthday, and he was having a big party, and all of the people in his life were coming together, right? So why now? It's because we were entering into a season in his life, and you can use that as a catalyst to get through the series. So that's where you really, really want to start. Why are we visiting this character at this moment?
Yeah, and then you have to really know your story. You have to know where you want to take the characters. You have to be able to envision 5 seasons, right? And not that you want to spew all of that in the room, but they're going to ask some details. You have to give them, of course, pitch the pilot, right? If they have no visual to go off of, you want to pitch the pilot. Then you want to give them bullet points of episode 2, episode 3, episode 4. They want to know where each character, the B stories, they want to know where everything is going and how some of them intertwine. and then give them an overview, a summary of season 2 and 3. And just, overall. And look, every pitch is going to be different, right? Because I sold a show to Fox in 2011, and that was on a trailer, a sketch trailer. Me and my partner at the time, we went in to a production company that had a great relationship with Fox. They just happened to do some small shows like 2.5 Men, But no, they were really gracious to us, and they had this meeting with us, and they were like, what do you want to do? I said, hey, I want to do a sketch show. And I showed them the 3-minute trailer of all the different characters that I can do. And by the time we hit the parking lot, my agent called and was like, they want to do a deal. They want to take it to Fox. So those are rare cases. But even with that, you still want to be able to tell them what exactly they're going to be seeing from this day into the next 10 years.
And then the only other thing that I would add is, you're choosing them as well. So when you're going into those meetings, it's not always the hard sell. It's really the dialogue and making sure that you're feeling out, oh, this person understands. Oh, they're asking me questions that are actually helping me to develop this even more in my mind. I feel like they understand this. So I would just encourage everyone to go into any kind of meetings like that, knowing that it is a two-way street, that is not just, oh, they get to choose you and oh, you have arrived. You have to pick the right partner. So listen for the things that, set off those bells and whistles inside of you to know that, oh, I think I may have a right partner here. And then if you could do a great deal, then you're on your way.
That was exactly what I was about to ask. So,
yeah, in layman's terms, don't go in thirsty and overselling. Don't do that, because it's like, I watch Shark Tank all the time, so you can see when the people that really know their numbers and they know exactly what they have and they know that their product is good enough that even if they don't get a deal on Shark Tank, they already won, right? And then you see the ones that are like, whatever y'all want to do, whatever you want, Mark, we really want you, Mark. They're doing too much. They're nervous. They're just desperate for a deal, and executives they can smell desperation. And it's not
exactly what I was about to ask. So say obviously the end goal of doing something like this is to get it sold, get it made, have it air. But sort of off that example, say you took this in a room and they're like, we love it, but make the main character white. You know what I mean? It's just like some crazy debate.
Yeah, we go somewhere else.
How do you navigate a situation where they want to fundamentally change something that you're passionate about, or just have a whole bunch of notes that you don't agree with? How does that work?
It's a case-by-case basis. I was in a scenario before where I was so married to every idea, and it was my baby. And then I had to talk to one of my mentors in the game. He said, hey, man, that's not a baby. You're a baby factory. That's a plastic baby, and you can make more. You didn't birth that. It's not a real child. So that was mic drop. You know what I mean? That was, don't get so married. Like there's case by case basis. Some stories you want to keep the integrity of the originality of it, and you just want to stick to your guns. And if you really believe in that, stick to it. But if it's a situation where they're like, hey, we want to give you whatever, I'm just picking a number, $40 million for this idea. I'm like, Damaine, let's go ahead and change that character. Go ahead and change that character to, whatever they want to change it to. Whatever they want to do, we're going to cash that $40 million. Case by case basis.
Obviously, without sort of mentioning the elephant in the room by name, this is a very sort of tricky time for creators. And for some people, it can maybe be a little bit overwhelming or perhaps discouraging. What keeps you going when circumstances, external forces are a little bit sort of challenging?
What elephant are you talking about, Malcolm?
He's right there in the pink boa. Sometimes things get a little bit weird. Even internally, you may have some self-doubt, or externally, there are forces in the industry that are, extenuating. Am I saying that right correctly? Yeah. What keeps you going and pushing forward when it's maybe a little bit murky out there?
Man, not to get preachy, but I have such a solid relationship with God, and I trust the gifts that He put in me so much that of all the thousands of no's that I've received, I always know, I got it. I have what it takes, I had the idea. I have the utmost confidence in myself. And one of my other mentors in the game who's really huge, and I won't say his name, but he told me, and it's not Kevin Hart because he's not huge in stature, but one of my mentors told me one time, never get too high, never get too low. Just stay even keel and keep persistent. Just keep persistent. I believe in myself and I study other people. Case in point, Kanye West. No, listen to this. The way I studied Kanye, all politics and personal antics aside, when he first started out, he was just a producer at Rockefeller. He wanted to rap. He kept telling Dame and Jay-Z he wants to rap. Yeah, he was there. He wants to rap. He's a rapper. And they were looking at him with his polo shirts on, and they was like, yeah, okay, rapper. You ain't killed nobody. You ain't sold no drugs. You got on polo shirts. You a college kid. Oh, yeah. Right?
You're not going to do Jay-Z?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not going to do Jay-Z. We're not going to be gratuitous, Talitha, okay? So what Kanye did brilliantly, as he was producing other people's records and songs, he would book the studio time like an hour or two beyond the time that they actually needed. And because rappers are like, they don't care about time, especially at that time, they would come in late, leave early, go party, and he would take up all that time and produce his records. And when it came time for him to release his project, he financed his own release party and video release. And then invited the same executives, Jay, Dame, and other people in the company. He invited them to the party, and they saw the reaction that everybody else gave him. And so that's what I do. Like, we've had other screenings for Manuscript already. Like, we made it, I make my own premieres. And I have Talitha, invite out as many executives as you can. And we invite the people to come see what we're doing. We don't just wait for SeriesFest. We create our own SeriesFest. So I have the utmost confidence in myself, and I love what I do, and I never want to lose that zeal and confidence. So just waking up every day and just being able to remain positive and in that belief, that's what keeps me going all the time.
That's interesting that you're saying all of that, because my first job in production was working for Jay-Z at the time. Right out of high school, I worked for Jay as a videographer, production editor, and all of that. And I traveled around the world with Kanye, watching him from the beginning all the way to success. So a lot of those tours he went on, them early on days, we would travel just doing everything. It was me, Kanye, John Legend, and I forgot who else was with us. But, they would just travel around, and they had the guy, remember Kanye used to have the guy in the bear suit and walk around doing all the bear stuff. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't believe at the time either. Because I had a job and I was tired to do this, but Kanye's mentality was always independent. It was always independent. I'm paying for my own money to do this. I'm paying for this. And he would tell me all the time, man, you got to do it yourself. You want to be a director, right? You got to do it yourself. Look at what Cootie doing. He's making this documentary on me right now while we filming. And I was like, all right, cool. And then, everything he asked for sort of came to fruition. So, it stuck with me. So once I left Rockefeller and I went on my journey to become an actor and a director and all of these things, I always remembered him telling me, you just put your own time, your own money. Don't listen to what everybody say, because most people are not going to believe what you're doing until you sort of get the ball rolling. Then it don't becomes, why did you do it? It becomes, how did you do it? You know what I mean? So that always stuck with me. And to this day.
That's really potent. Yeah. Are we doing questions from the audience? Yeah. Anybody want to shout one out? Go for it.
Yeah. During the pitch-a-thon, someone mentioned that when you're selling a pitch or a series, you're not just selling the script. You're teaching a studio how they can work with you. So do you have any tips or do's and don'ts for creators and writers about how they can stay with their project through production? Because I hear a lot of stories about you can cut a check and then shown out the door, and obviously no one who creates an original show wants that to be the case.
I think the question is tips for do's and don'ts in pitching, correct? Is that, why don't you just repeat? I think it was a little bit longer.
Sorry. Someone during the pitch-a-thon said the second part of selling your script is teaching a studio how they can work with you. So you're interviewing for a showrunner job or a writing room job. Do you have any tips or do's and don'ts for creators and writers on how they can stay with their project through production?
You have to show not just studios, you have to walk through this entertainment industry as if people need to be in business with you. Because from there, look at yourself as your own studio, i.e. Paramount, Netflix. I'm just using them as examples. Look at yourself as that studio that creates volumes of content. You have to be fly. You got to be confident. You got to be the guy that they want to talk to, that they want to be around. Not in a fake way, but you have to be so confident in what you do that they want to be in business with you. That's how you stay with your project. Because I've seen guys get bumped off their own projects, and the project turns out to be something totally different. But if they're like, yo, we cannot move forward without this person. Malcolm is the hottest writer in the game. Like, they gotta know.
Okay,
It's
Malcolm.
true.
Okay.
I know.
Malcolm.
I know. So.
Yeah, from my perspective, I'd add to what Afe is saying, that confidence goes a long way, especially in picking partners. So when you're at the point of pitching a studio, you may have already picked a producing partner before then, and then you're prepping with that producing partner to take it into that studio pitch. So make sure that that producing partner knows that it's important to you as well, that you stay involved in that pitch so that there's never any question going in that you'll be picking someone who's looking to erase you from the project. So there's no guarantees. No producing partner is going to say, oh, I'm going to guarantee you're the showrunner. But they will make a meaningful effort, and you want to pick the partner who's going to say that I'm going to make a meaningful effort to make sure that you're the showrunner. Now, you want to be willing, like you said, you don't want to, hold on to a plastic baby. You want to be willing to say like, oh, if I'm going to get David E. Kelley, yes, I will step aside and know what that level is that you're getting. But if there's someone who you certainly know can't tell your story, and that's why you want to be as specific as possible when you're telling stories, it's really got to start with something that you know better than anyone. And that's one of the ways that they'll be able to say, we need their voice in this. Damaine was just saying I should tell the story. I worked with Morgan Cooper when he sold Bel Air. And, Morgan had a real reason why he did that. It wasn't just because he loved the Fresh Prince of Bel Air. It wasn't just because he was inspired by it. He wanted to tell an understory that he picked up on that wasn't told in the broad version of it. And that understory was the father and son story. And the father and son story as it relates to a son who never had a father, and all the different fathers in his life. So when you watch Bel Air now, it really does pick up on that, and he stuck very closely to that. And I think that's what kept him in this process, being his first time in the writer's room, his first time directing. He also went out and directed a 45-minute piece because we wanted to make sure that he was going to be able to win that job to direct. So little things like that, he made sure he put in the work so that when they asked, he was able to answer.
That's great. Any more questions?
Hi, this question is for Talitha. And first I want to say that people in your position don't ever get the recognition that you deserve for making everything happen. I think creatives would.
Thank you. Thank you. They keep me up.
So for people who maybe want to develop more skills on the business and production side, do you have recommendations for how to do that? And is it possible to do that in a place that isn't a major film center?
Yeah, that's such a great question, and thank you so much for the acknowledgement. I think the way representation is set up, it is set up as an apprenticeship. The training program, the assistant to manager route really works because you learn more by hearing how things are done than by reading how things are done, because largely everyone will tell you, oh, there are rules. There's so many ways to do this. And you just kind of have to trust the information you're being given, trust what you have, put together the best pitch possible, adjust as you're along the way. And a lot of that you learn by hearing how the person who you're working for is speaking to that lawyer, then that executive, then the partner, then the actor. And they're adjusting how they're messaging that same message to all of these people because that person needs to keep everybody involved, right? So I would say the best thing for someone to do if they want to learn this business and they're not in New York, LA, or Atlanta or one of these centers is go work for a producer, maybe a local producer. Listen to how they put things together. Ask them to shadow them on pitch meetings and calls. Be a valuable resource. Maybe even volunteer for an event like SeriesFest so you can build your network of mentors. So you can ask questions too. And then a lot of these programs are going online. So look into like UCLA courses, AFI has courses, et cetera, that you can tap into that can give you the nuts and bolts of it, and then the rest of it is going to be those soft skills that Malcolm talked about.
It's really great advice. Any more? I think
Hi, I just want to say that sometimes our role is to pitch ourselves and our stuff and our work, but sometimes it's also to try and help other folks. Just now we saw some very moving short documentaries, unscripted, and you were there. We did not have time for Q&A, but that gentleman, for example, who is of a certain age, is making very important content. Now, I really just want to have you talk about his work.
Me, Malcolm?
Yes,
Okay.
Malcolm, sorry. Please, because that was a very important piece and it's a Denver story. So he's taken, it's not well made, but it's really important stories and he needs help. So I want to get you, Malcolm, to get them in touch with him and let that happen.
Oh, I
it's
think
called
you work that out with the SeriesFest folks.
Yeah, and I think that's why we're here, So as I said, Ashley and Amir are here. We've talked to Randy and Claire probably 40 times leading into this. So we're really well connected with the SeriesFest group. So we benefit from that relationship in that they'll send us things to watch so that when we're not running around and meeting people, we have the leisure of watching and being thoughtful about it and making sure that we're the right people. So thank you. I did hear about how powerful that was, and I will stop to take a look.
There's a gem of something that you said that's interesting to me. I think age, right? So you mentioned that he was a certain age, and just in a broad sense, I think a lot of times people who are working to enter this business, become creators, sell projects, sort of get this notion that you got to be like that magic age of like 28 to 30. 35 or whatever, and that maybe you're in your 40s, right? And a lot of stories now, if not the vast bulk of them on television, are about 20-somethings in love, or high school or college or whatever. To what degree does being, I'm the same age as you, so middle-aged. To what degree does that sort of change how or interpret how you make stuff?
It doesn't. Quincy Jones made Thriller at 50. Enough said. You know what I mean? Like there's always gonna be a lot of myths and categories that they try to box you into and make you believe that you got to be 19 to 24 to be a star. No, you don't. And I mean, look at Viola Davis, who is doing some of her best work now, and is so vocal about how passionate she is about it. Samuel L. Jackson, one of the biggest movie stars in the world, like. These people aren't 19.
He started in his 40s.
He started in his 40s. So don't take any information into your system that doesn't agree with your system. Believe in who you are.
Also, the Golden Girls changed the way TV was even made back in the in the early 80s, just based off of that. We love the Golden Girls.
But no, that's a great point. They were not 19. And it's a hit show that's a classic, legendary. They're not 19, the Golden Girls.
No, they weren't.
They were not 19, that's my point. Okay, guys, you don't have to just be 19 to be a star.
Yeah, I would say I think it's exciting that someone who may be a bit older was able to then pour their passion into this filmmaking art, and maybe they don't have all the technical skills as a younger person has to make it look beautiful, but they have the wisdom and experience to be able to tell a story that obviously moved you. So I think it's just how you tell that story.
Also, work out. Stay in shape. Me and Damaine be in the gym every day, trying to stay young. I'm in my 40s, but I can move like a 20-something.
So using the Golden Girls as a jumping off point.
Should we do a sing-along?
I was going to talk about broadcast and streaming, but sure. 5 and a 1 and a 2. No. Broadcast and streaming, right? I mean, without getting into the weeds of where the industry is at.
Thank you for being a friend. I just had to do it. I'm sorry.
To what degree should creators be thinking about where the project will end up as they are creating? Because obviously a single cam sensibility is different from a multi-cam one. How important is that from the outset to consider as you're creating?
It's important. You got to know what your tone is. So even in the pitch, they're going to ask you, well, what is this show? What is it compared to? They're always going to ask you comps. So know your tone and know what network service that tone. That's my advice.
Yeah, I think it was mentioned in the last panel I did that each of these networks have their identity. And what you used to pitch for was like, oh, this will be a good leading for or a lead out from, you know, what show would come before or after it to help be your marketing platform for your show. Now you still want to be in that subset. So like, you know, when Paramount goes to the TCAs and they're like, Yellowstone, Yellowstone, Yellowstone manuscript, they're like, what? You know what I mean? So you want to be in like company because you're talking to an audience that's servicing, you know, that demographic. So you want to keep that in mind. And when you go into pitch, like definitely know it's a half-hour comedy, it's multicam, and know the difference between what those two things are, because it's a difference in investment. It's also a difference in how the script is written, and the type of showrunner and people you need around you. But also know what else they have on their platform that you aspire to. Don't go into HBO and only pitch Showtime shows. Like, that's just a big no-no in a pitch.
And to that point, Affion, when you were describing your project, you mentioned Insecure, right? I've heard people say, so what's your story about? Well, it's a crime, drama, drug story set, and so it's like Snowfall? No, it's not like anything. Like, have you heard that when people say it's not like anything else? Like, can you talk about what does that do from the executive side or from the creative side when people hear that? How do you interpret somebody saying it's not like anything else? How do you interpret that?
I mean, it just puts a bigger burden of proof because the comps are directional. No one's looking to replicate the exact same thing, but they are looking to entertain the same audience. So it's directional towards audience. So if you're like, it's actually not Snowfall because we're looking for a female audience, then it's more like Claws, right? So then you want to be more directional with your comps.
And there's don't shy away from being inspired by others. I knew when I did manuscript that I actually wanted it to be a brother show to Insecure. You know, of course, she retired the show after 5 seasons successfully, but I was always like targeting, let's go to HBO, let's go to Issa, let's sit down, let's figure that out. There's nothing new under the sun, so if someone tells you it's not like anything, they're lying. They're simply just lying. You know, there's nothing wrong with being...
Squid Games.
Yeah, that's its own situation, right? And Handmaid's Tale. I don't know where that came from. That is...
Yeah, my name is Patrick Hampton. My question is more about costs and valuations. So, Affion, you paid out of... my curiosity is, did you pay out of pocket or did you leverage a loan to finance this pilot, first and foremost?
Out of pocket.
Straightly out of pocket. And then the second part of it, too, is when you're going to pitch it, are you guys looking at the bottom cost or are you guys looking at the valuation to it? So, like, how much did it actually cost you from the bottom line compared to how much...
Never say what it costs in the room. Never. Because even though we use our resources and we can shoot it for a lower number, this ain't Shark Tank, so I'm not going in with a valuation. They don't need to know that. You know, we want them to see the value in the project as a whole, and they offer a number and a deal that is favorable way beyond what we pay for it. So
yeah, plus no studio really gonna really care what you pay for yours because they're not really looking to sort of put your independent thing on the air. They have their own structure and format of how they do things. So your thing is really just a proof of concept. So how much you want to pay for your project is really up to you. So don't think, because when I shot my pilot, the first pilot, I was like, I was so married to this has to air. Because that's all people were saying. This is airable. This is like sort of airable, sort of ready to go. But really, whatever studio you take it to or whatever network looks at it, they're not looking at it. They have their own people that they have deals with that they have to include into this. So nothing you make is really going to be ready to go on air So just sort of look to just, they're not really asking like how much you pay for it. They know, they see quality, so they know what quality is. So if they do ask you and you tell them what you pay for it, obviously it's not going to be up close to their $1 million budget that they spent. So even if you made the same quality, but you only spent whatever small amount, they're just going to be shocked that how were you able to do it for so little? You know, that's the only thing they're going to be surprised at it.
I appreciate the answers because you guys are really on point about it, and it's really helpful. Just for the packaging realities, I thought it was just a great question, so thank you so much.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that, we sort of hinted at this before, but in terms of knowing when it's ready, right? You both have plenty of experience. You've done enough your eyes are sophisticated enough to know when something looks good and what's right. But for those of us who are making something on $5,000 or $700, your check from your grandma, whatever the case may be, like, in what ways can they ensure that their project is of enough sufficient quality to show somebody? How would they make that evaluation? How can they determine if it's ready to be shown, even on a smaller budget?
I think if you have a smaller budget, you may want to just focus on doing one really great scene. And put the energy and time into that versus trying to do a full episode and it's, you know, at lower quality because you don't have the music mixer, because all of that. Focus on one really great scene that speaks to what your project is going to be, and then put all of the quality into that. And then you tell your story around that.
And, as an exec, yeah, evidently you said it, but so you'd be open to somebody say, have a scene of this pilot that how would somebody pitch that to you?
Well, it was Bel Air, which you brought up earlier. Bel Air went viral with just a trailer.
That's true.
And he shot the scenes that were necessary to sell and we all got it right away. Like, oh, wow, the dramatic version of The Fresh Prince. I get it.
Very well put. Very
Okay, I think we have two more questions. Does that sound good?
Let's do it.
So on that note of Bel Air, was that ever shot as a full episode, or was that envisioned as a trailer from the start? And then in the regards to spending your money on the right aspects, is it worth filming a 30-minute thing and pitching it, or should you cut your 30-minute thing down to a trailer if you feel like it can hit a sweet spot?
So with Bel Air, it was a trailer, and he basically shot the trailer to go along with the song in a way. So he wanted to show the fight on the playground. He wanted to show some of those key moments. Morgan was in a community in Kansas City where he was able to tap into other people to work with him. He funded it himself, and then he just put it out. So that was always a trailer. He happened to land with me as an agent when I was at CAA, and I was able to get it right to Will Smith. So that was how that ended up working out. For if you want to shoot a trailer versus a 30-minute, I think it really just depends on the feedback that you're getting, right? So if you let's say you wrote the script and you've shared it with a few writer friends, or maybe you put it in a competition and people are like, I'm just not feeling it. I don't see it. To Affion's point, maybe you need to make it. Maybe you need to show it. Maybe that tone needs to come through visually as well. Maybe there's so much in the visual language of it that changes. And I think that's a big part of Morgan selling Bel Air as well, is just like you had to feel that different tone than what you saw in Fresh Prince of Bel Air, because it never really got that dangerous in that show, right? So I think that's the aspect I would say. Try and get as much feedback as possible on the reads, maybe even do a table read with some friends and see if it comes through. And if it doesn't and people are just like, I'm having a hard time envisioning this moment or what have you, maybe you go shoot it.
And to add on to that, when you're getting feedback, please, and I can't stress this enough, get feedback from people who are not affiliated with you. That doesn't have any personal gain from you or anything. Because if you give feedback from your mom, your dad, your cousins, or a client, they're always going to tell you it's great because they don't want to hurt your feelings. But if you go to a script doctor, or there's all these companies that you can just go on Fiverr and find all these companies that'll proofread your stuff and give you all of this honest feedback, they will destroy your script and break down your project. And you want that. You really want that. And if you don't take it personal and you say this is all to make my project better, it's going to have a bigger impact on the final outcome of your project.
I don't want any of that. I'm the one member in the team. I hate notes. And I have the luxury of doing stand-up comedy for almost 20 years now in front of perfect strangers every night. So I have my own gauge of what I believe is funny and what's going to work. So I just trust my instincts. what they're saying is absolutely correct. It doesn't work for every single person. You just have to trust your instincts, trust what your skill sets are, and just go forward without unapologetically.
But if you do have both, is it smarter to use one angle or kind of just start with the trailer because it's shorter?
No, I think it depends on who the audience is, right? So if you have both, submit your full project to a festival.
SeriesFest.
So that you have that. If you have a trailer and you're trying to get the attention of someone who you might have met here and they only have a couple minutes to take a look at it, send them the trailer. And if their appetite is whetted, they'll watch the longer piece. So I think you just have to think about, like, who is it being shown to? And is this the format that they're going to be able to accept in that moment, you know?
Congratulations again on Manuscript. I really relate to your process and how you got your project out there and doing it yourself, and that's all I've ever done. My question is mainly, how do you get in front of the right people? Like, here I am at SeriesFest. I'm going to festivals all over. I don't have a manager, I don't have an agent. Like, how do you get there? How do you get in the room to pitch?
You're in the room now.
Yeah, I would say that this is as I mentioned, like, Randy and Claire will bring people to our attention. They know what our mandates are for our company, and they'll send people our way. A lot of the festivals do that. Many management companies will come to festivals like this to make sure that they're seeing new talent. And then, I just really think it's a personal decision. So you want to take as many of those meetings as you can, but you want to find someone who gives you googly eyes, like he says, so that you know that you have the right people in your court. So I would just say keep doing what you're doing, and then make sure you have a really, really good elevator pitch when you are in these rooms, so that when those managers are, shaking your hands for those 5 or 10 minutes that they have, that they know you've left an impression on them.
I believe we're running on time, but as we close, I would ask you, so you have this beautiful pilot, you have an amazing manager, champion, googly eye person. What next, and how does that sort of benefit people who are in the audience who might be in the same stage as you, who finished the project? What is the next step?
We put together the series Bible, right? So we have the pilot, obviously. We have the whole series in beats for season 1, 2, 3, and we're setting up meetings to take it into pitch.
After the strike.
After the strike, of course. But yeah.
Yeah, but then you have the independent way of doing it, whereas you have companies that will, allow you to shoot your entire show, your entire series, and you can do a partnership deal with companies that will say, hey, we have money. Oh, we love what you did. Can you bring me back 8 more episodes of this? We'll partner with you, and then we'll go. We have an output deal here or there. It's not a lot of people that have that, but there are some that do have that in Hollywood, and you can go there and do it independently, and continue your show independently, and don't have to have the
It's
studio.
harder to find.
Very much harder to find.
Definitely more in the independent space or international space, but it does exist.
I lied. One more. Is it advisable for somebody to put their full pilot online, just for everybody to view in the same way that Morgan did the trailer? Why or why not?
I don't see why not. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
there's no, as much as there are rules, we're in a space now where it's kind of the Wild Wild West. Like, you never know what's going to work. So if you find a space for it, put it online.
We put millions of dollars worth of content on YouTube for free over the years, over 20 years, and haven't gotten paid for that. So why not?
As a representative, I would say no, and I would advise these guys not to put the pilot online.
I didn't say we were putting hours online.
Exactly. But
That's why we have you.
I would say that if you have something or you have some kind of mechanism, like maybe a Shondaland staff writer who likes your pilot and wants to put it on a platform that gets a lot of eyeballs, then that would be a great place to do it so that you can have a story to tell. I wouldn't put it on YouTube and then you have 12 views. And that's just not how you want to start a story of creating value for something that you've put a lot of money into.
But not to negate that, but there are platforms like Patreon, right? you look at a lot of podcasters, they're putting their whole, like Joe Budden, for example, is making a killing on Patreon. So there are platforms where you can get your subscribers if you have enough of a fan base to where, yeah, you can actually make a living from doing that. So it's just another option. I'm not saying everyone should do that, but it's an avenue.
Well, great work. Best of luck, and thank you for the amazing advice you've given. You've given a lot.
Thank
of
you,
really
man,
good
for being
tools.
here.
Thank you.
Thank you
amazing
for
questions.
being a friend. Travel that. No.
I'm not gonna pain everybody by singing. Thank you all again.
Thank you guys, everybody. Thank you guys.
Thank
for coming
y'all.
out.
Thank you,
Appreciate your
Series
time.
Fest.